Welcome to Peacevision. We are a portal for positive change, and today, a man that's been striving for change in our oceans and to keep them clean. Please welcome Dave Randle. Welcome, Dave.
Hey, John, thanks. Good to be with you.
So one of the first things that you did when you got started years ago was an organization called Waves of Change. What is that, and what are you guys doing?
So what brought me from Utah to Florida was I came here to help co-found the International Ocean Institute office for the United States. IOI, or the International Ocean Institute, is headquartered in Malta, has 25 operational centers around the world, but it never had one in the US. So we created the first one, and we soon found that there were restrictions of these offices that you couldn't act globally without getting permissions of other offices' territories. So to create kind of a workaround, we created a program called Waves of Change to be an internationally Ocean Institute endorsed program for education. And that's how Waves of Change got started. And the two cities that started it were St. Petersburg, Florida, and Key West, Florida.
So can you tell me a little bit about the mission statement? What's your objective? What are you trying to accomplish?
Basically, what we're trying to do is find ways to involve the citizenry of the world to be much more active in preserving our oceans. And the fundamental issues we're looking at are climate change, ocean acidification, overfishing, and pollution. There's more issues than that, but those are the four that we've been targeting.
And we're always trying to figure out what can we do and what can we send our viewers to be as an actionable item to make a positive change. So what do you suggest in that regard?
Well, it depends on the community and the local laws that they have, but many states are now starting to do coastal zoning, and getting involved in those local meetings for the coastal zoning aspects is important. Anything to help address the climate change issue is important. Ocean acidification is sometimes called the twin of climate change, because they're both related to excessive CO2, carbon emissions. And we get too much carbon in the oceans, and it literally corrodes the shellfish. So it eats away the shellfish, it eats away the living coral, and it will really destroy our oceans if we've known them, if we don't get a handle on the ocean acidification. And then in the area of plastics, 90% of the pollution in our oceans come from plastics. So anything you can do to reduce your use of plastic, from single-use bags to reusable containers to choosing products that are not coming in all that kind of packaging, etc., makes a big difference, because all those little pieces add up. And then in the overfishing, I suggest you either put the app on your phone of Seafood Watch, or if you don't have the app, you can look online, and Monterey Bay Aquarium sponsors this. And whenever you eat seafood, make sure you're choosing sustainable choices to help preserve our fisheries. So those are some simple things to get started.
Awesome. That's great information. Thank you so much for sharing. I also understand that you're involved with something called sustainable tourism. What is that, and what can we do to be more aware as we travel?
So we got involved with sustainable tourism through the Waves of Change campaign when we consulted with people like Jean-Michel and Philippe Cousteau and Sylvia Earle and Paul Boyle, the head of the World Ocean Project, Alexander Galitskin, head of the UN Law of the Sea offices, and other experts, Noel Brown, who founded the offices in North America and the UN headquarters for the UN Environment Program. And they all had the same response. The major problem that could be helpful in mitigating ocean issues is tourism. Might not think about that. They all knew it. I didn't know that, to be honest, at the time. But it turns out 80% of the pollution in the ocean is land-based. And tourism is the fastest growing industry in the world. It's the largest industry in the world. It's larger than oil or mining or any of the fossil fuels. It has $1 trillion of GDP impact a year, and 640 billion of that is related to what tourism can do and not do in terms of mitigation. So many countries of the world, it's their only hope for development, for income, and it's 12% of the world's employment. It's 10% of the world's GDP. It's absolutely enormous. And so if we can make tourism more sustainable, reducing our carbon emissions and our tourism operations, making sure our restaurants and tourism are serving sustainable seafoods, working to eliminate the plastics, those kinds of things, we can go a long way to mitigating ocean issues. 80% of the problems in the ocean are land-based, and they're not just the ones I mentioned. There's other ones, simple things like fertilizers. People don't realize that the nitrates and phosphates of fertilizers end up creating ocean dead zones. When I first came to IOI in 2005, we had 200 dead zones. We now have about 600, the largest the size of the state of New Jersey, and the Gulf of Mexico, mouth of Gulf of Mexico and the Baltic Sea is where the two largest ocean dead zones are located. But imagine 600 pockets like this, not all as big as these two I mentioned, but huge in size. Nothing can live in those areas. And the primary culprit is our fertilizers and phosphates, which are also significantly in Florida contributing to the red tide problem as well.
So is there a resource that you'd recommend going to, Dave, that can give us some basic information about the do's and don'ts?
Well, bluecommunity.info is kind of the best website that we're involved with that gives tips and strategies for individuals and organizations. So we have 12 strategies. We developed these strategies in tourism with the Walt Disney Company Animal Science and Environment team. And these are all strategies that Disney is doing themselves. They're all strategies that can be scalable from a bed and breakfast operation to a large Walt Disney World complex. And they're all strategies that have been proven cost effective as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. We're going to have you back because I know you have some really interesting stories to tell us about John Denver. So, and also I'd like for you to share some tips with other people on how to do what you've done, which is to devote your life and maintain a living while giving back. So we're going to have you back real soon. Thank you so much for being with us today, Dave Randle.
Thank you, John.